मुझे भी ससुराल खेलना है। ताकि you enjoy the event.
So very good evening to all of you. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you all on behalf of the Mobius Foundation to our panel discussion on Wetlands for Well-Being, Preserving India's Wetlands at the Travancore House. We're very proud to be the first organization to host an event at this charming property, adding a special touch to the gathering today. Travancore Palace was the erstwhile New Delhi residence of the Maharaja of Travancore. It proudly stands as the city's sole princely abode, adorned with a regal crest featuring 2 elephants at its entrance, also known as Hathiwali Koti, over the past century. It was erected in 1930. Post-independence, the government of Kerala took ownership, transforming this historic edifice into a cultural haven. Today, it boasts of art galleries, an amphitheatre, seminar halls, conference rooms, and exhibition areas. A little brief about the Mobius Foundation for the uninitiated. Mobius Foundation is a non-profit organization founded by Mr. Pradeep Burman and is dedicated to promoting environmental sustainability, education, population stabilization, and addressing climate change challenges. The foundation focuses on various initiatives to create a sustainable future. As chairman of the Mobius Foundation, Mr. Pradeep Burman has led the organization in its various ventures aimed at promoting sustainability, education, and social welfare. The foundation's core values, which include environmental conservation, align with the urgent need to preserve our wetlands. Additionally, the Mobius Foundation has established a think tank recently, it's been about a year, that operates as a public interest research and advocacy arm within the foundation. The think tank consists of a team of researchers who specialize in a diverse array of critical areas such as climate change, ecological disasters, climate finance, economics, forestry and wildlife, education, renewable energy, agriculture, and CBG. The think tank also serves as a platform for generating knowledge, disseminating information, and influencing public opinion and policy. Ladies and gentlemen, we have amongst us distinguished speakers and panelists today. And each panelist and speaker tonight brings a unique perspective and wealth of knowledge to the table. Their valuable experience, research and advocacy and dedication to conserve our wetlands have made a significant impact. Together, we have an incredible opportunity to learn from their expertise and explore innovative approaches to address the challenges and threats in preserving India's wetlands. I'd now like to invite our chairman and founder, Mr. Pradeep Burman, to please address the audience.
Very good evening to you all. ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you today with a sense of urgency and passion for the preservation of India's wetlands. These unique ecosystems are not only beautiful landscapes, but also offer indispensable services crucial for the well-being of our planet and its inhabitants. Wetlands are often aptly referred to as the kidneys of the earth due to their remarkable ability to filter and purify water, ensuring access to clean drinking water for communities and fostering a rich array of plant and animal species. Additionally, these ecosystems serve as natural carbon sinks, playing a vital role in mitigating climate change and sequestering carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Unfortunately, India's wetlands are facing numerous threats, including land conversion, pollution, and unsustainable resource extraction. The degradation not only puts at risk the biodiversity and natural beauty they support, but also undermines the health and livelihoods of local communities. At Mobius Foundation, we are committed to conservation and restoration of wetlands in India. Through our project initiatives, we work towards raising awareness about the importance of these ecosystems, implementing sustainable management practices, and advocating for policies that prioritize their protection. As we bear witness to the swift depletion of our natural resources and the escalating impact of climate change, the imperative to prioritize the preservation of our wetlands has never been more pressing. Preserving these unique ecosystems isn't just an environment duty, it is a pledge to safeguard the very essence of our interconnected global ecosystem and ensure a sustainable future. Let us unite as a community committed to environmental sustainability, working collaboratively to secure the health and vitality of India's wetlands. The choices we make in the present will leave an enduring imprint on the well-being of our planet in the years to come. Thank you.
Invite Dr. Sumesh Bakshi, IFS Member Secretary, Wetland Authority, Delhi.
Very good evening to all of you. Respected Pradeep Garman Sahab, respected Praveen Garg Sahab, Raja Babu Singh Sahab, Amita Das Gupta ji, Aditya Joshi ji, and all the esteemed audience. I am feeling proud to be here as our Sir Praveen Garg sir has invited me to deliver a keynote address as a Member Secretary of Delhi Wetland Authority. As sir has rightly said that wetlands are our kidney. Sir, I tell you that forests are our lungs and rivers are our blood of the country. And we are not doing justice for our kidney, our blood and our heart and our lungs. Everything is depleting very fast. I was going through a document reading about wetlands, then they are saying that the rate of depletion of wetlands are 3 times faster than the forests. So really it's alarming. Now what has to be done? So there is one international organization and it's a Ramsar Convention which has certain criteria to declare the wetlands in a category of Ramsar. So India has crossed with the able leadership of our Prime Minister. We have crossed 80 Ramsar wetlands in our country. But I'll tell you that more important points are our small water bodies, which remains untouched by any kind of law. And it's very, very useful for the community. They are the lifeline of any village, community, district, or even places. We have only qualified 2 of our cities in internationally acclaimed for wetlands, that is Bhopal and one is Udaipur. So it's alarming that India is such a big country. And I tell you that Delhi as a wetland authority, we have earmarked 1045 water bodies with the 6 wetland authorities having rights over the land, we call it civic bodies. So 1045 wetlands we can say as per the definition of the Ramsar that they are having plenty of water throughout the year. And not only that, we have done the GIS mapping also for 1013 wetlands in Delhi. And with the 16 land owning agencies, we are doing lot of things, and national portal we are qualifying as a number 1 in the country in Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. But still I feel that lot of dumping, as sir has rightly said, that due to the encroachment, dumping and many more activities, biotic pressures, our precious wealth that is wetland is vanishing very, very fast. Internationally, yes, the attention is there. शाहिर का एक शेर है कि देर लगी आने में तुझको फिर भी तुम आए तो. So let us hope that wetlands number has come, and like in forest 2 decades back our forest cover was only 14%. Now we have approached to 23% of the forest cover in Delhi, and we can proudly say that Delhi is the greenest capital in the world. So likewise I can say that wetland also will be the next, and automatically they are the key sources of biodiversity. Around 1/3 of the biodiversity thrives on the wetland. All the phylums you name, avifauna, annelida, mollusca, insecta, bacteria, amphibians, all thrives in this marshy places where the wetlands have shallow water. All the migratory birds, it has a numerous wealth of ecosystem services. So that has to be preserved. And how it will be preserved, it's a big question mark. And I request Mobius Foundation to ponder upon this, because there is no institutions. We have wetland rules as per 2017, and accordingly wetland authority has been created. But it doesn't have the enforcement. Enforcement means there is no such act, and which agency has to done what is very, very grim. Like in Delhi, we have multiple ownership over a land. MCD is there, DDA is there, Forest Department is there, many more, PWD, all are having wetlands. So in the forest, we have 30 wetlands, and all are preserved. One of the wetlands I will invite you all and see. That is the only wetland in which you can have drinking water facility. It's a potable wetland. We went on MCT to Finland, and our colleague who was my partner, he said, from where to drink water? So the hotel attendant said, even in the tap water you can drink water and it's a potable. So I was surprised that time during 2010, and still we don't have any river, we don't have anything, any pond, any lake from which we can drink water. That is a question. So I am not advocating that some services may be given the responsibility. It's a combined ability and combined effort to preserve our environment and other natural resources. But there is a system. Like I belong to Indian Forest Service. I worked in Tawang area also. The snow-capped area where there was 108 lakes, high altitude lakes, all pristine. There are certain cultural stories, traditions, they are linked with that wetland. And only the forest, because they are originally from the forest area, so forest department is protecting them. We have a beat guard, we have a forester, we have deputy ranger, we have range officer, we have ACF, we have DFO, we have conservative forest. A series of departmental organization with plethora of acts and rules. And above all, the judiciary, who is taking the proactive lead for conserving the forest and environment. So we have to think which authority will be suitable to protect the natural resources. Join hand with the community, join hand with the people and conserve the nature. We have to think. Lot of murmuring is going on that there will be an environmental service. There is an Environmental Protection Act. There is a Central Pollution Control, CPCB. I have no idea what they are working. There is act, there are rules, but implementing agency, how to enforce, is very, very, I cannot say weak, but you need to work upon it. So I must say that, as sir has said, that it's a very, very sad affair that all the wetlands we have lost and depleting very fast, and someone has to stop it. We cannot look judiciary only to stop the things. It's we, the people of India, also can do better. With this word, I really appreciate the efforts of Mobius Foundation. I appreciate all the colleagues who have joined hands and given precious time. I sincerely thank Praveen Garg sir for invitation and giving me time to speak. Jai Hind. Thank you so much.
Who's also known as the Pond Man of India. Whilst he's speaking, there will be a presentation displayed to my right. So please do follow. I know for the front row sitters it might be a little difficult, but
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thanks to the Mobius Foundation for inviting me, जहाँ मैं इतने अच्छे लोगों के सामने अपनी बात कह पाऊँगा आज. So, as I was introduced myself, Ramveer Tawar, and मेरा काम है गाँव में, दूर दराज के गाँव में, शहर से लगे हुए गाँव में वेटलैंड्स को, आज क्योंकि यहाँ पे मैं वेटलैंड्स कह रहा हूँ, वैसे उनको तालाब, जोहड़, पोखर, ताल, तलैया, 200 से ज़्यादा नाम्स को मैं जानता हूँ अगर आप पूरे भारत की बात करेंगे तो। बट यहाँ पे सिर्फ अभी वो अभी के लिए सिर्फ वो वेटलैंड्स है। तो हम वेटलैंड्स को साफ़ करने का काम करते हैं, लोगों को उनके बारे में अवेयर करने का काम करते हैं। इसीलिए लोगों ने, मीडिया ने, साथियों ने एक नाम ये मुझे दिया, द पॉन्ड मैन। सो नेक्स्ट वन प्लीज़। सो आपको थोड़ा पिक्चर्स की हेल्प से समझ में आएगा कि एक्चुअली है क्या ये काम। व्हेन आई से नेक्स्ट प्लीज मूव द स्लाइड। सो नेक्स्ट वन, नेक्स्ट। सो नेक्स्ट मैं काम की बात पे आता हूँ और नेक्स्ट करिए। सो जब हम पॉन्ड्स की बात करते हैं, जहाँ पे नेक्स्ट, जहाँ पे हम इस तरह की, जहाँ पे हमारा नेक्स्ट करिए, क्योंकि टाइम बहुत कम है, 7 मिनट्स में मैं पूरी स्लाइड्स पे एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पाऊँगा। नेक्स्ट प्लीज, नेक्स्ट। सो हमने देखा है कि जहाँ पे हमारा सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट पहुँचा है, वहाँ पे तालाबों को लैंडफिल साइट की शेप में देखा जा सकता है। वैसे अभी भी हमारे दिमाग में जो पॉन्ड्स हैं, जब हम पॉन्ड्स की, वेटलैंड्स की बात करते हैं तो सुंदर तस्वीरें दिमाग में आती हैं। और आज अगर मैं आपको एक नेचुरल सीनरी ड्रॉ करने को दूं कि घर से एक नेचुरल सीनरी ड्रॉ करके लानी है, तो 99% लोगों के दिमाग में जो एक पिक्चर आएगी, दैट विल बी पहाड़ों के पीछे से उगता हुआ सूरज, आगे छोटा सा पॉन्ड, उसके किनारे पे झोपड़ी। वो वैसी वेटलैंड्स की तस्वीरें हमारे दिमाग में आती हैं। पहले प्लीज। सो देयर में भी सम टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लम। नेक्स्ट, कौन कर रहा है इसको? दिस वन। सो ये अभी एक पॉन्ड की मैं आपको एक एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे एक तस्वीर दिखाता हूँ। ये एनसीआर का एक पॉन्ड है, गाजियाबाद सिटी, ग्रेटर नोएडा के बीच का एक तालाब है। जब मैं इस तालाब के बाद, अभी हम इस तरह के पॉन्ड्स पे काम कर रहे हैं, तो ये एक तालाब को जब मैं देखने गया, सो देयर वॉज एन अंकल जो मुझे इसके बारे में एक्सप्लेन कर रहे थे, वो उसी गांव से बिलोंग करते थे। सो मैंने उनसे पूछा कि ये कब से ऐसा तालाब है, तो उन्होंने पूछा कि बहुत टाइम नहीं हुआ है, मैं जब 8th 9th क्लास में थे तो आई यूज्ड टू स्विम इन दिस वाटर बॉडी। इवन मैंने जो स्विमिंग करना सीखा है वो इसी वेटलैंड से सीखा है। और इवन अगर मेरा 25 पैसे का, 10 पैसे का कुछ सिक्का गिरता था, कॉइन गिरता था, तो आई कुड सी दैट कॉइन। जब वो मुझे ये बात बता रहे थे तो मेरे दिमाग में जो आ रहा था कि सिक्का तो दूर, अभी अंकल गिर गए तो बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाएगा उनको ढूंढना। दिस इज द कंडीशन। बट उन्होंने जो मुझे एक बात बताई कि जैसे जैसे आसपास की बिल्डिंग्स की हाइट बढ़ती चली गई, हमारे इस पॉन्ड की कंडीशन वैसी आ गई। जो वो बात टेक्निकली कहना चाह रहे थे वो ये थी कि जैसे जैसे सो कॉल्ड डेवलपमेंट हमारे गांव की तरफ आया है, हमारे वाटर, नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज की हालत होती चली गई। नेक्स्ट वन प्लीज। सो दिस इज द, ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं कुछ, चाहे वो यूट्रोफिकेशन की प्रॉब्लम है, डायरेक्ट सीवेज है, एंक्रोचमेंट लोगों ने कर लिया, अभी सर ने बताया, तो ज़्यादातर ये प्रॉब्लम है। नेक्स्ट वन। ये एक पॉन्ड है, आप दूसरा पॉन्ड देखेंगे, इसमें सारी प्रॉब्लम आपको दिख जाएंगी। सो आई स्टार्टेड टू रिजुवनेट दिस पॉन्ड इन 2021। 1 साल लगा डॉक्यूमेंटेशन करने में, बिकॉज अभी जो सर ने कहा कि यहाँ पे वाटर बॉडीज एक बात है, लेकिन उसकी ऑनरशिप ढूंढने में काफ़ी लंबा टाइम लग जाता है कि वो किस डिपार्टमेंट से संबंधित है। देयर इज नो ए सिंगल गवर्नमेंट बॉडी कि वो किसकी वाटर बॉडी है। Next one. So we took 1 year to rejuvenate this water body. So this is the before after picture of same water body. This is what we are doing for these water bodies. Next one. So this is next pond in Ghaziabad city in Rajnagar extension. You can, if you are traveling to that side, you can visit any time. And the building in background is DPS school. I'm telling this because they didn't support that time. So, and I'm very proud to let you know that the same before after picture was used our honorable Prime Minister in Mann Ki Baat, just to show our country that our ponds can be restored back to their life. दिस इज बिकॉज दिस इज ए मिथ की जो एक बार हो गया खराब उसको हो गया, उस पर कुछ और बनाते हैं, उस पर कोई कार पार्किंग बना देते हैं। उसी तरह से लैंड यूज चेंज काफ़ी वाटर बॉडीज़ का एनसीआर में हुआ है। नेक्स्ट वन, सो दीज आर so many water bodies. We are I started from my nearby, from my village, but right now we are working in 6 states. Next one. So our USP to restore these wetlands, अगर आप एनसीआर में एक बार वेटलैंड्स को आप घूमने जाएंगे, वेटलैंड्स को छोड़ दीजिए, जो पॉन्ड्स है जिनको हम दूसरा नाम से भी जानते हैं, तो वो कहीं ना कहीं 80% वो कंक्रीटाइज का शिकार हो चुके हैं। दैट इज़ वन अनदर रीजन कि उनको किल किया गया है। उन पे महंगे महंगे पत्थर लगे हैं, नीचे भी इवन मैंने काफ़ी पॉन्ड्स ऐसे विजिट किए, नॉट एनसीआर बट पूरे इंडिया में अभी तक 10-15 पॉन्ड्स ऐसे मैंने देखे हैं जो नीचे भी उनमें टाइल लगी हुई है, जिस टाइल जैसी टाइल पे आप बैठे हैं। आई वॉज सरप्राइज टू सी, जब मुझे डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर ने कई बार इनवाइट किया कि हमारे यहाँ पे मछलियाँ मर जाती है, प्लीज़ चेक व्हाट इज़ द रीजन, इस तालाब में क्या प्रॉब्लम है। तो मैंने कहा कि सर इसकी नीचे की सॉइल किस टाइप की, उनका सॉइल यहाँ तो पत्थर लगे नीचे। तो दैट इज़ द इंटेंसिटी कि हम अपने वेटलैंड्स को कैसा बनाना है। आई रियलाइज द सेम प्रॉब्लम एंड वी स्टार्टेड टू डेवलप सम पॉन्ड आइलैंड्स। जो भी हमने पॉन्ड आइलैंड, क्योंकि स्विमिंग पूल में वाटर बॉडीज़ की कमी नहीं है, हर होटल में हर इस तरह की बिल्डिंग में स्विमिंग पूल है, तो वाटर बॉडीज़ की कमी नहीं है, कमी है हेल्दी वाटर बॉडीज की, कमी है वेटलैंड्स की। तो वी स्टार्टेड टू डेवलप सम पॉन्ड आइलैंड्स जहाँ पे डक्स, चाहे वो माइग्रेटरी है चाहे वो नॉन माइग्रेटरी है, जहाँ पे उस तरह की ग्रासेस वहाँ पे लगाए जाएं ताकि उन ग्रासेस को तोड़ के, उनके पत्तों को तोड़ के वो अपना एक नेस्ट बना सके, उसमें अपने बच्चे छिपा सके, जहाँ पे वो सेफ एंड सिक्योर फील कर सके। सो वी स्टार्टेड टू डेवलप सच आइलैंड्स इन पॉन्ड्स एंड we waited for 1 year just to see the effect in our first island. Next one, that is was the result कि जहाँ जहाँ पे भी हमने इस तरह के islands develop किए, they were full of birds, even I will say aquatic birds. The reason ये है कि इस तरह के NCR के एरिया में किनारे पे किसी भी बर्ड को, डक को अंडे रखना, घोंसला बनाना नहीं, सेफ नहीं है उनके लिए भी, है ना। गाँव में उतने सारे कुत्ते हैं शहर में कि शाम को चखने की तरह यूज कर लेते हैं अंडों को। तो दैट इज़ द सबसे अच्छा पॉइंट है कि उनको बीच में एक सेफ सिक्योर प्लेस दिया जाए। नेक्स्ट वन, ऑल्सो वी आर डेवलपिंग सम मिनी पॉन्ड्स इन हिली एरिया, और आई डोंट नो वी कैन से टू दीज मिनी पॉन्ड्स वेटलैंड्स और नॉट, बट दीज मिनी पॉन्ड्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। ये जब फॉरेस्ट फायर होती है, DFO सर ऑल्सो मे बी नो, तो फॉरेस्ट फायर के टाइम पे पानी वहाँ पे मिल सकता है, वाइल्ड लाइफ को पानी मिल सकता है, एंड जब पानी वहीं पे रुक जाएगा तो नीचे फ्लड के भी चांसेस कम हो सकते हैं। तो दीज आर द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ मिनी पॉन्ड्स। वी हैव क्रिएटेड मोर देन 100 मिनी पॉन्ड्स इन हिल एरिया, स्पेशली इन उत्तराखंड। नेक्स्ट वन, सो वी आर ट्राइंग टू मेक दीज विलेज पॉन्ड्स सेल्फ सस्टेनेबल पॉन्ड्स, चाहे वो एक्वाकल्चर हो, इको टूरिज्म हो, समथिंग लाइक दैट कि लोग वहाँ को ऑनरशिप आ सकें। क्योंकि गांव में आपने देखा होगा, लोग बहुत बार आपने न्यूज़ में भी पढ़ा होगा कि कई बार किसी के खेत की किसी ने एक बार मेड़ काट ली 6 इंची तो पता चले लाठी डंडे गोलियां तक चल जाती है। तो रीज़न ये है कि वो ऑनरशिप आती है, कोई नहीं चाहता कि मेरी प्रॉपर्टी को कोई टच करे। तो सेम वी आर ट्राइंग कि किसी को ऑनरशिप उसकी दें ताकि वो भी उसके लिए फाइट करे कि नहीं आप इसमें कचरा नहीं डाल सकते। सो वी आर ट्राइंग अवर बेस्ट इन दैट टू। नेक्स्ट वन, अपार्ट with community engagement. Next one, so apart from pond restoration, we have adopted such landfill sites in many cities from the municipal corporations. Next one, this is one landfill site in Indirapuram, Ghaziabad. We have planted around 30,000 saplings there till now, and will be planted more 75,000 saplings this year. Still we are doing that. So any person who want to do volunteering activity, you are most welcome there. Next one, this is another landfill site. आप इसके पीछे देखेंगे जो बिल्डिंग्स हैं, they were fighting in NGT, सुप्रीम कोर्ट, और ये जो पीछे वाला बिल्डर है इसके लिए, इसके साथ एक अलग टाइप की प्रॉब्लम है। इसके यहाँ पे आप खड़े नहीं हो सकते बदबू के कारण, लेकिन इस प्रोजेक्ट का नाम है द फ्रेगनेंस, वो उसके लिए प्रॉब्लम है ना। तो ही सजेस्टेड कि सर हम क्या कर सकते हैं, यहाँ लोग उल्टा हमारा मजाक उड़ा के जाते हैं। तो मैंने कहा कि आप हमें 1 साल दीजिए, वी विल डू समथिंग। So we started to convert this landfill site. Next one. So this is the right condition. We have planted around 40,000 saplings there. जब मैं यहाँ पे अभी गया था लास्ट मंथ, तो वहाँ पे वो MBA वाले बच्चे जो ब्रोशर लेके खड़े होते हैं फ्लैट बेचने वाले, सो मैंने वहाँ से लिया, तो आई गॉट टू नो दैट कि मैंने उनसे रेट पूछा जब उसका, तो उन्होंने कहा कि उधर 40 लाख का है और इधर 45 लाख का है। मैंने कहा क्यों? उन्होंने कहा कि इधर हम फॉरेस्ट व्यू पे आपको फ्लैट दे रहे हैं, है ना। सो दैट इज, आई मीन, प्लांटेशन और रिस्टोरिंग ए वेटलैंड इज नॉट फॉर द एनवायरमेंट कंजर्वेशन ओनली, बट ऑल्सो कैन इम्पैक्ट द होल इकोनॉमी ऑफ अवर कंट्री. दिस इज द लाइव एग्जाम्पल. नेक्स्ट वन. So these are our corporate partner who supported us. Next one. Next. Even Prime Minister sir, Chief Minister sir, and many Bollywood stars have supported us in this mission. Next one. So thank you. This was my small PPT about our work. So I have one small short video, so you can see the step-by-step change how we restore these wetlands. So thank you so much again for giving me this golden opportunity. And many times I request to our youngsters, our civil engineers, architects कि बिना टाइलिंग के भी हम, बिना कंक्रीटाइजेशन के भी हम पॉन्ड्स को बचा सकते हैं. So that's our priority. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'd now like to introduce you to our panel, and we will commence with the panel discussion. So first I'd like to invite Mr. Sumitra Das Gupta. He is from the IFS. He is the former Principal Chief Conservator of Forests and Head of the Forest Force, West Bengal. I'd like to ask the audience here, does anybody know which is the largest wetland in the country? In India? Yes. Yes, you're right. So Sundarbans is the largest wetland in India. In the globe, Sir says in the globe, and we'll shed some light on the Sundarbans very soon. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Aditya Joshi, who is also the ex-PCCF of CWLW Manipur, and he's also the advisor to the think tank of the Mobius Foundation. And here's another question that I'd like to ask you. Do you know what the largest freshwater lake in Asia is? Kolero. Lovely. So, Dr. Joshi will also shed some light on the Loktam Lake. Next, I'd like to invite Dr. Ritesh Kumar, who is the Director, Wetlands International South Asia. And we have, no questions. And we have Mr. Suresh Babu, who is Senior Director, Ecological Footprints, WWF India. And our moderator today is the lovely, charming Miss Neha Sinha, who is Head of Policy and Communications, WWF, and she is a conservation biologist and an author.
Hello.
Is this working? Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to my esteemed panel for being here. They represent wetlands from different parts of India, which is really fascinating and also diverse. So let me start with Mr. Das Gupta. Pleasure to have you, sir. We've interacted before for the Central Asian Flyway work. Sir, about Sundarbans that you just mentioned, huge wetland, lots of issues in terms of livelihoods. It's also a climate struck area which gets lots of storms every year. So do tell us a little bit about the challenges that Sundarbans faces and a little bit about how you think we can work to conserve this extremely diverse but also imperiled place.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So first of all, I take this opportunity of thanking Burman sir, Garg sir for having me here. So this is an opportunity of speaking to the communities who are sitting here and also my old friends who were working with me when I was in the ministry. Yes, I had a great opportunity in my younger days to be the field director of the Sundarban Tiger Reserve. And as Nehaji is saying regarding the importance of the Sundarbans, I would like to reiterate the fact that this is the largest wetland, mangrove wetland in the globe, and that spans more than 10,000 square kilometers. And we are having, India is having 40% of it. It's around 4,200 odd square kilometers, and the rest of it lies within Bangladesh. We, unfortunately, the forest officers don't really govern the wetlands. Most of the wetlands, if you see in India, are outside the domain of the forest department. I think it's only in UP and to some extent in Bihar that they have brought the wetlands within the domain. So there lies the issue of governance, as Suresh was mentioning. But fortunately, Sundarban is under the forest department, majority of the Sundarbans. And why shall we be protecting, say for that matter, any species of Sundarbans or a wetland? As one man was saying, as Suresh was also saying, wetlands are the system which offers the largest quantum of ecosystem services. Ecosystem services means the services which actually help the mankind. I think the theme of today's discussion is also for the well-being. So to protect the ecosystem, protect Sundarban is an imperative. There is no alternative. It is an imperative. So naturally, on ground, there are many challenges for Sundarbans. The 4 challenges what we quantify these days for Sundarban. Number 1, which is the issue which is niggling the entire world, global warming. Number 2, the deglaciation of the Gangotri glacier. Number 3, there is a barrage which has come. Sundarban is in the delta of 3 rivers, Ganges, Brahmaputra, and in Bangladesh, Meghna. So there is a barrage which was constructed in a place called Farakka. So the spillage of water is also creating to some extent some problem for Sundarbans. And lastly, the rise of the seawater. This has resulted in not only devastation of the habitat of the Sundarban wildlife, but also the communities. The communities are highly challenged. And in fact, I can give you one example, is that when we were the field directors, this area is also seeing lots of cyclones. So when there was a cyclone and the dam, which is a difference between the water, saline water, and the village, gets breached. So once it is breached, the villages are actually in the lower than the water level. So water, saline water, gets into the villages. And to get this saline water leached, it at least requires 3 rainfall. So once these storms happen, it actually devastates the local communities. And their dependence on forest increases. The problems with the forest department increases. So one has to really look into the facts as to what it is causing. The global warming that is happening nowadays has to be really addressed, not only for some other context, but also for saving the wetlands, especially important wetlands like Sundarbans. There's a way of quantifying. ज़्यादातर लोगों को समझ में ये नहीं आता है कि हम एक पेड़ पौधों को क्यों बचाएं. So there is a system which has been devised by the Forest Department of estimation of ecosystem services. In the tiger reserves, we have started this, and for the last 10-15 years, we are doing it. So, about in 2014, the ecosystem services of Sundarban was quantified. Can you guess what could be the numbers? Monetization of the ecosystem services. It was coming to 50,000 rupees per hectare per year. So when you multiply the total area of Sundarban Tiger Reserve, which is half of the Sundarbans of India, it's mind-boggling figure. I'm not a mathematician, I won't be able to tell you that figure. So it's a huge quantum of finances are also being damaged if we don't actually preserve our wetlands like Sundarbans. So there are issues, but people have taken some decisions, some directions for the conservation of the species. And as we were discussing, that Sundarban is also very unique for its tiger, because you will be finding, sir was saying, in Florida, the mangroves, there are lots of mangroves many places in the globe, but you will never find a mangrove which is having tiger. So that is the landscape Sundarban which is having the tigers. So when you save this wetland, you are not only saving the tigers and other species, you are also saving mankind. So one has to be very careful, and the work being done by Mr. Tanveer, who is actually doing work in the urban area, is very, very important. And we need more such persons like Tanveer in the urban or semi-urban areas like Sundarban to really conserve the wetland. So in the beginning, that I think I would like to restrict to this only. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just a follow-up question. I was in Sundarbans last year when a cyclone was coming. I think people are always waiting between cyclones because it's such a climate disaster area. So in your long, vast experience as an administrator, what would be a kind of solution for a difficult place like Sundarbans, which, as you said, has the mangrove tiger, it has people who are poor, salination is a problem with the freshwater ponds. Do you think there are solutions that we can work on together? What would be you suggest?
Yeah, actually Sundarbans, or for that matter any wetland, cannot be solved by one department. It has to be multi-sectoral, and one has to raise the awareness level of the local population and general public also. As sir was saying, that these wetlands are known actually as kidneys, and sometimes some enterprising person also gives name of a wetland like Sundarban as a supermarket. So many things are available there. There are countless numbers of things. So the awareness, the importance of these wetlands, importance of Sundarbans has to be inculcated. People should stop damaging this kind of wetlands. People should stop creation of deforestation, fragmentation, and sometimes, which is very harmful, which is happening mostly in the urban area, and sometimes in areas like Sundarban also, is the unplanned urbanization, which is actually affecting largely to the health of the wetlands like Sundarbans. In fact, as I was telling you, that global warming Sundarban is trying its level best to conserve. Mangrove gives, when you go for the calculation of carbon sequestration, mangrove species like Sonoraceae, some plants have been shown here. So the Sonoraceae rate of carbon assimilation is much more in comparison to many other species. So we need to plant more such mangrove. We need to stop the destructive activities which is being carried out knowingly, unknowingly. We should also generate awareness amongst the people. Community involvement is one of the most important things for a humongously populated country like India. Without the contribution from the communities, I don't think it is possible only for the forest department or for that matter any other department nowadays to conserve anything. So these are the points which I feel is very important, and whatever policy we make for conservation of wetlands like Sundarban, one should be careful that the damaging features should be reduced and the promotional aspect should be done in a more practical and a more expansive manner.
Thank you. So we need to work together. Many departments have to work together. Look at the climate angle, livelihood angle, as well as the conservation angle. Thank you so much. Dr. Joshi, we are going to talk about Loktak Lake in Manipur. So for those who don't know, Loktak is a Ramsar site in Manipur. It has a very unique species called the dancing deer. It has this unique floating vegetation. We are very lucky in our country to have different kinds of wetlands in different places. So Dr. Joshi, could you tell us a bit about Loktak and your work over there? Tell us a bit about the area for those who don't know, and tell us about your work.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I'd just like to add to what Soumitra said. He mentioned about the ecosystem services of the wetlands. So there's an estimate of the ecosystem services that wetlands provide globally, and the figure is about $47 trillion. So this is the kind of, the valuation that has been done in the ecosystem services at the global level. Loktak, as most of you be aware, it's a very unique ecosystem. And why it is unique? Basically, there are 3-4 main reasons. One is that the natural hydrological regime of the lake has an interseasonal variability. What I mean by that is that the lake is pulsating. The area increases in the monsoon and the area subsides when in the lean season. So that is the interseasonal variability that happens in the lake. The second is that there are a number of inlets. They are mostly inlets into the lake, but there is only one outlet. So the lake drains through only one outlet. So this is also very unique. The third thing is, as was mentioned, we have this phenomenon of floating islands. And these floating islands are basically fumdis. And what are these fumdis? They are heterogeneous masses of soil, vegetation, and organic matter in various stages of decomposition. And somehow in that lake, in that ecosystem, they acquire a buoyancy and they float. And these fumdis, they vary in size and thickness. So they can be, many, quite huge also and quite small also. And the size, the thickness would vary, say 1 meter, 2 meters, even 4 meters. And the southeast of this lake is where these fumdis are a lot of fumdis have proliferated. And these fumdis is, that it's about 40 square kilometer area, which constitutes the Cable Lamjaw National Park, which is the last refuge of the Elds deer, also known as Sangai, and also known as the dancing deer of Manipur. Now, why it is known as dancing deer? Because when it walks on the fumdis, it hops and it looks like it's dancing. So Cable Lamjaw National Park is a very unique, very unique feature of Loktak Lake. Now this is a little bit about Loktak. Now, when you want to understand Loktak, I think you have to go back in history a little bit. Loktak, basically, it's if you happen to see the map of Manipur, it's surrounded by hills on all sides, and in the center part there is a valley, which is Imphal Valley, which is about 2,000 square kilometers, and this lake is on the southern part of this valley. And most of the rivers and streams and rivulets which are coming from these hills and highlands, they drain into this Loktak. So it is a kind of natural drainage system. It's kind of basin, or you can say a kind of bowl in the center of the state, where all the water from everywhere flows in. And as I said, there's only one outlet, which is the Manipur River. And earlier this water used to drain out from Manipur. It used to flow into the Chindwin River, which is in Myanmar. And Chindwin used to join Irrawaddy. And so this whole Loktak and Manipur River and all this thing was part of the Irrawaddy River basin. Now what happened is that earlier, as I said, it's a pulsating lake. So area used to decrease in the lean season, that is the dry season, that is somewhere between November and April. And mid-April, the monsoon starts, and then the lake would fill up, and it will be, covering the whole area, say about 500 square kilometers. In the lean season, it will go down to say around 200, sometimes less, maybe around 230 to 40 square kilometers on an average. In 1967, the Loktak hydroelectric project was conceived. It was conceived because what the planners, and at that time there was hardly any, this importance given to environmental issues, and there was hardly any environmental impact assessment or any kind of studies. And what the planners saw, it was only development, and what they saw was a natural reservoir with a water head. So they thought that a hydroelectric project can be installed here. And after 1967, in 1983, a Loktak hydroelectric project was commissioned. And it was commissioned by constructing a barrage in the Manipur River. That was the only outlet of the lake. So Manipur River was kind of blocked, and the Ithai barrage, which is about 70 meters long, that was installed. And after that, of course, the Loktak was designated as a Ramsar site in 1990. Then in 1993, Loktak was again included in the Montreux record. Now Montreux record is something which is, we are not very proud of it, because Montreux record is a list of those wetlands which are showing degradation, signs of degradation. And why this Loktak was put in the Montreux record? There were basically four reasons. One was the catchment degradation. The catchment was being degraded. The siltation was happening in the lake. The pollution levels were increasing because, as I said, it is south of Imphal, all the rivers are flowing there. So all the waste, solid waste, sewage, it was coming into the lake. The nutrient load was increasing, and then because of the nutrient load increasing, there was eutrophication, which is high growth of plants, and the natural flora was being substituted by the invasive species, by water hyacinths, and this is also changing the flora and fauna. So these were some of the reasons why they were included in the Montreux record. Now, when this Ithai barrage was constructed, in fact, that you talk to anyone who has worked in Loktak, he will say that is one single reason why the Loktak has, met its fate, whatever we are seeing now. And what basically happened was, once this Manipur River was blocked, the whole hydrological regime of that wetland changed. Earlier, whenever the lake water increased during the monsoons, it used to flow out into the Manipur River, Khordak Channel, Manipur River, and it will drain out. But in the winters, when the water level will go down, there would be backflow of water. So that means from Chindwin, the water will flow into the lake through the Manipur River. And with this, the lot of fish, lot of nutrients, lot of fresh water would be coming in. But once you have blocked this, the lake, the outlet, there is no inflow of water from Chindwin. So which again is now, the lake is, kind of, it was at some point of time in a very stagnant state. Now if I won't take much time, but if you see today, the same problems persist. The major threats that Loktak Lake is having is again the same. The catchment is degrading because in the catchment area, in some of the catchment area, we have this phenomenon in the northeast of shifting cultivation or jhum. So shifting cultivation is slash and burn. So that is being practiced, and once that happens, there are a lot of soil erosion, and then everything comes into the lake. So catchment degradation is there, siltation is there, pollution is still there. In fact, with the increase in population, the solid waste, the sewage, the inflow of sewage per day, it's very high, about 50,000 cubic meters per day. Sewage is flowing into the water. Then there is this, the fumdi, there's a proliferation of fumdi. And if you have happened to go to Manipur, and if you land in Imphal airport, once you descend from the plane, you fly over Loktak Lake. And what you see is those green structures, which are round stem structures, and they look very pretty. In the glistening water, they look very pretty, those structures. But that basically is a man-made structure for fish rearing, for aquaculture, and which is not good, because what happens is, this was pre-1983, before the barrage came. This athafum, this is known as athafum. So athafum fishing was a seasonal activity. It was only done in the monsoons. But now, because of the Ithai barrage, what has happened is that much of the area has inundated because it doesn't flow out. For hydroelectric power, you need a certain level, 768.5 meters above mean sea level, that you have to maintain. So the water never goes down, the area is inundated. Then the another threat is as I said, alteration and fragmentation in the hydrological regime. Then these marshes, the earlier marshes and lands, even agricultural lands have to be converted to fish ponds, because now they are all inundated. And of course, there is threat to wildlife and biodiversity. I've talked about Cable Lamjau National Park. What happens, I'll just add that earlier, when in the lean season, when the water level went down, these fumdis, these floating masses, would settle on the lake bed and draw nourishment from the lake. And then once the monsoon comes and the water level increases, they will again float. But after this hydrological regime change, when the water level is not going down, and because for hydroelectric power you need that water level to be maintained, this is not happening, and so the fumdis are not settling down, they keep floating, and the thickness of the fumdis is reducing, the fumdis are thinning. So it is again a threat to the habitat of fungi. And this proliferation of fumdis, a lot of fumdis because of fishing, that has an impact on the migratory birds. Because again, Loktak is again very unique. It is in the fly path, two fly paths of migratory birds. One is the Central Asian flyway, and the second is the East Asian Australasian flyway. So both these flyways are merging there, and we get, now we get around 30,000 birds in the winter season, of about 30 to 40 species. So we get these kind of migratory, but that is again another threat. These are some of the threats.
Sir, one of the important things that you mentioned is that you've had a chance to study Loktak, to understand how, say, a hydroelectric power project, how communities dependent on a wetland, and how sewage, etc., can impact negatively a wetland. What would be some recommendations for taking it forward? I know there's a huge tourism plan with a chopper and a golf course, etc., but perhaps that's not the best way forward.
See, when you talk of regulatory mechanisms, there is the Wetland Conservation Management Rules 2017, and for Loktak, the state government has already constituted an authority, the Loktak Development Authority, which is managing the lake. And we have the Manipur Loktak Protection Act also, 2006. Now, this wetland conservation rules, they stipulate that an ecosystem approach has to be followed, and a wise use. Any wetland has to be, done in a wise use way. So that is the term that we use, that wise use. And as the theme of today is the human, well-being and wetlands. So the communities which are dependent on in the lake, in fact, again, I would just like to add here that the Loktak Lake is very important to the Manipur, to the state of Manipur, to the people of Manipur. It is ingrained in their culture, in their socio-cultural aspects, and a lot of communities were dependent on it. In fact, they treat it as a goddess, looked up goddess. So all these things are there. So now, when this, as per the wise use plan, what the state government has done is that we have kind of the state government has drafted the integrated management plan for Loktak Lake. And integrated management plan is as per this wise use, as I said, of the conservation rules. The integrated management plan is under submission to ministry. It has been, in fact, VISA has also kind of, we have consulted VISA also, and the IIT Roorkee has vetted it. Now, basically, what it says is, the recommendations that are there, I'll just, some of the main recommendations I'll highlight. One is that the institution and governance have to be kind of reoriented. The institution, that is Loktak Development Authority, has to be kind of strengthened and reoriented towards a more conservative, conservation-driven approach. The second is that there has to be even the boundary has not been kind of settled for Loktak, because Loktak, again, when we talk of Loktak, there's a complex, Loktak wetland complex. There are other lakes as well, so which have now fragmented because of the hydrological regime. That is there. Then the assessment and monitoring, that is there. Then the second is the problems are there, like catchment. Now for catchment, one has to treat the catchment. So one has to have some catchment treatment plan by afforestation, by checking the soil erosion, by soil conservation measures. Then you have to have the most important thing is a water management plan, and water management and water allocation plan. So one has to have a water allocation plan on all the multiple users that the Loktak is being looked to, like hydroelectric power generation, or the fisheries, or whatever these things are there, that has to be followed. The channels that are flowing into the Loktak, there's a lot of siltation there, so those have to be desilted. The pollution levels have to be checked. Now pollution levels have to be checked by treating these rivers, because the main river which is polluting the Loktak is the Nambul. And for Nambul, there's already a Nambul River Action Plan, which is again being funded by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. And there are some of these sewage treatment plants being this thing, and they're already commissioned. So that is also a very important step, that this pollution levels are checked. The water management plan will also include, in fact, there's a proposal, the state government was considering that this Ethai barrage itself should be decommissioned. It was very much and quite at a high level, the government was considering that. In fact, the state government had approached the central government to decommission the Ethai barrage also. But then that again, because before, like when the Ethai barrage was commissioned, those studies were done. Now, if you do it at this stage, it can have any implication. In fact, because of the siltation, because of the waterbed rising, it can lead to draining out of the water during the lean season. So all these things are there. So these things have to be studied. Then there has to be sustainable fishery practices, because now most of the communities are dependent on the fisheries. So that fishery aspect has to be done. The capture fishery has to be reduced, and aquaculture has to be initiated. But then the whole community, because of the increased population, they cannot depend on fisheries alone. So some alternate livelihoods have to be provided to the communities. So that is also very important. Eco-tourism is also very important. And like you said, a tourism project was being envisaged by the state government. And in fact, the state government had approached the Asian Development Bank for funding of that eco-tourism project. But when the ADB experts had come, and when we had our meetings with those, so they said before they take up the ecotourism, they would like to first take up the eco-restoration of the lake. And eco-restoration will include these only: the catchment treatment, the pollution control, the sustainable fisheries, the community alternate livelihood to communities, and the ecotourism, the guidelines. Because right now, ecotourism that is happening there, there are some homestays. but they are not, they call themselves eco-tourism, but they are not eco-friendly, because all the waste is being, thrown into the lake, all the waste that is generated. So those kind of some guidelines have to be prepared. So these are some of the...
Thank you, sir. One of the very important things you mentioned is an ecosystem approach, and to keep the integrity of the wetland when we are making anything or building projects. So I'm going to take that word and move on to Mr. Babu and ask, sir, a lot of wetland restoration is connected to rivers, and we often talk about river cleaning and wetland cleaning, but there's also rejuvenation, which is beyond just cleaning. Can you tell us a bit about WWF's work on restoring and rejuvenating rivers and wetlands, and vice versa?
At the outset, I just want to mention that what Mobius Foundation is doing. I've been part of a couple of dialogues. This is an amazing knowledge exchange, and I think this is what is required in our urban areas, to share experiences and inspire people to come forward to take action. So a big congratulations and appreciation to Mobius Foundation. And also esteemed panelists, Samudra Das Gupta sir, with whom we have all got the opportunity to work together. He has done a lot, and he's been very humble here for wetlands in our country, and also for dolphins.
Central Asian
Flyway Initiative, his negotiations in the CMS Corp. Sir, thanks a lot. So it's an honor to be with you in a platform like this. I'm very inspired by all the stories that we are hearing, and some of the challenges that we are hearing. The Delhi State Wetland Authority Chief and Ramveer talked about how they are restoring. I think the government's intent has clearly shifted from cleaning to rejuvenation. Okay, so there is a broader understanding of what ecosystem health is. So earlier we used to look at water quality as an indicator for a success of a cleaning program, but I think we are now talking about what is the health of a river, what is the health of a wetland. Ritesh is here. We've been working very closely, and today the Joint Secretary is not here from the MOEFC. We've been closely working in the ministry to look at how the health of wetlands in our country is today. So there is a clear intent where we are trying to look at hydrology, we are looking at water quality, we are looking at biodiversity. So all of them are together. So we are inspired that there is a clear intent to move towards a connected system. We are not seeing things in isolation. In the first instance itself, Dr. Das Gupta sir mentioned about what are the key challenges in Sundarbans. He talked about fragmentation. What is fragmentation? The system is getting disconnected. So I just wanted to say that while we talk about rejuvenating wetlands, without rejuvenating wetlands, we cannot rejuvenate our rivers. The national government has talked about Aviral Ganga, Aviral rivers. Aviral is continuous flow of water. Where will the water come from? Is it like in your case, water will come from dams? Yes, water will come from dams, but wetlands can play an important role in recharging your aquifers, and aquifers can actually feed your rivers. Groundwater is a major source of many of our rivers, and that's something that we need to keep in mind. If we lose our wetlands, groundwater recharge will reduce, and therefore we cannot look at flows in our rivers. That's number one point. And so again, there was a mention that Forest Department is not owning or the landowner of many wetlands, and we've been very fortunate to work with the UP government, sir, with the Revenue Department, with Agriculture Department, Rural Development Department in a place called Bareilly. You must be all knowing about Corbett. Corbett से एक नदी निकलती है रामगंगा. It's a beautiful river till the time it is in the Corbett. When it comes out, it becomes lean because there is a dam, and then it comes to a city called Bareilly. Muradabad में brass बनते हैं. There is 1 million population. Then Bareilly, again 1 million population. Sewage comes in, it gets bad. So there is a small river called Aril. Aril is about 160 kilometers, and Aril is spotted by small wetlands. Now आपने कहा कि catchment से disconnect हो गया. So same issue Aril में भी हो गया. Catchment में घर बने, habitations बने, खेती हो गया. तो जो channels जो catchment से wetlands में पानी लेके आते थे, that all got blocked. Wetlands started shrinking. Aril का major source of water is groundwater. Groundwater नीचे चले गए. Aril started drying up. Arils started drying up, many arils started drying up. So Ramganga में जो पानी है वो खत्म होते जा रहा है. So what we did was with these three departments, we started looking at how aril can be rejuvenated. The Minister for Forest and Environment, the previous irrigation minister, fortunately he was also from Bareilly, they all took initiative. So we got together multiple stakeholders together, farmers together, the local residents together, the government departments together to say what can be done to rejuvenate this river. So it took us to 4 wetlands, around 100 hectares of wetlands. So usko connect kiya, it took about a year and a half to get to this stage. Water hyacinth, Ramvi Tanwar showed how water hyacinth is taken out. तो हमने कहा कि टेक आउट करेंगे, कितने बार टेक आउट करेंगे, कहाँ डालेंगे. तो कुछ फार्मर ने कहा कि इसका खाद बन सकता है कि नहीं. सो खाद बना दिया, 2500 क्विंटल्स निकल गया उसमें से वाटर हायासिंथ. So we converted that into vermicompost and 700 क्विंटल आ गया. 500 wetland मित्रा बन गए, मित्रास वो लेके गए. So in a way it took us about a year and a half to 2 years to just rejuvenate that wetland. And then the next monsoon came. Slowly the wetland services started improving. पानी का retention increase हो गया, groundwater recharge increase हो गया, and नदी started flowing again. And so this is, I'm saying that this can happen, but it requires an agency, a convener. So for instance, can we empower our district wetland committees? So district magistrate is the chair of a district wetland committee. Sir, आपने कहा, our keynote speaker said, वो institutional arrangement क्या है? Institutions को कैसे strengthen किया जाए? So at the district level, we need to kind of operationalize this, and we are very hopeful that we talk about 30 million wells in the country, which extracts groundwater. And Ridesh will also talk about the number of wetlands. लाखों में है हमारे पास wetlands. अगर map करेंगे, हर एक गांव में एक तालाब या एक wetland होता ही है. So can we actually rejuvenate them to rejuvenate our groundwater and therefore the water security? So लेकिन कौन responsibility लेंगे? पंचायत लेंगे या wetland authority लेंगे? I just want to mention one thing. Both of us work very closely with the Ministry, Environment and Forest and the Wetlands Division. Last 1 year से एक Save Wetlands campaign करके एक अभियान चलाया. And sir, आप दोनों ने importance of community connect and community wetland connect की बात की. And that's precisely what that campaign was all about. कि make wetland rejuvenation a people's campaign. And you will not believe the numbers of people who connected with that campaign. 1 million का target रखा था कि can we actually reach out to at least 1 million people, but the numbers are much more, and I hope that this will continue and it will bring a sea change in our attitude towards wetlands, because without wetlands there is no resilience, there is no survival going forward. So that's something that we need to understand. And Delhi का case classic है, 1400 wetlands आप बता रहे हैं, and we are still heavily dependent on groundwater. बहुत सारे ट्यूब वेल्स हैं हमारे यहाँ. So without wetlands we will not be able to survive.
So you spoke of resilience, so then can you just spend a couple of minutes only on how interconnectedness of wetlands and rivers is also climate resilience?
Yeah. So there are classic examples. एक unexpected rainfall हो गया. The cities like Gurgaon, cities like Delhi, cities like Chennai, Bangalore all become under water. Now, why didn't it happen in the past? Because we had that flood cushioning capacity in the form of our wetlands. So the moment we start converting our wetlands into another land use, the flood cushioning capacity is reducing. And again, there are concepts of wetland cities. I think the keynote speaker mentioned about 2 cities. I think 3 cities abhi wetland cities बनने जा रहे हैं. The idea is that how can cities start respecting its wetlands? Wetlands as an integral part of its growth strategy, not just someone said that wetlands are related to economy. Yes, it will bring economic prosperity, it will bring water security, but also it will secure your population and people and every infrastructure that you have from flooding. So that's one. Second, Ramveer ने heat islands की बात की. किसी ने कार्बन सेक्वेस्ट्रेशन का भी बात की. सर आपने कहा था कार्बन सेक्वेस्ट्रेशन. सो ये जो emissions हो रहे हैं हमारे यहाँ पे, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड हो रहे हैं. So our wetland plants, wetland soil, all of this absorb carbon dioxide, when you go to a water body, you feel that, acha, yahan pe 1 degree temperature kam hai. Yes, you will feel that because it absorbs carbon dioxide. So it's important that we respect wetlands from that point of view as well. And therefore, globally also we have what's called as a global biodiversity framework. हमने एक target globally, India also has signed up to that, is to ensure that by 2030, 30% of all ecosystems, including inland water bodies, wetlands, water bodies are preserved. And WWF with Wetland International and many other agencies have estimated that if we were to achieve that target, we need to protect 350 million hectares of wetlands globally. And it's a huge challenge. And if we were to secure our populations, if we were to keep our global warming within the prescribed limits. So,
Thank you so much. You spoke of the Global Biodiversity Framework. So my question to my old friend, Dr. Ritesh Kumar, you also, in the Visa hat and the Ramsar hat that you wear, you are familiar with so many wetlands in South Asia, not just India. So could you tell us some of the best practices from South Asia that you feel India should be utilizing for wetland conservation?
The narrative of wetlands conservation that we began with was primarily European. Right? So in the 60s and 70s, the images that you see around, it will always show you a bird and water. Despite the fact that traditionally our read our Vedas, wetlands are referred to as Anup. Anup is incomparable land. We were far more advanced civilization to recognize that there was terrestrial area, land, water, and between them there was something which was incomparable. Despite when we look into European civilizations, if we look into Bible and other scriptures, hell was what was the description of metal. So we were far evolved. And our connections to the wetlands did not emerge from our liking of birds alone. They are beautiful creatures. Yeah, it presents a unique scenery. But our cultures evolved around wetlands. Our cities evolved around wetlands. Most of our cities will have a moniker. It's a lake city. It's a city of lakes, city of 1,000 lakes. Therefore is what? City of lakes. Right? So we have an organic connection. And it spells from our life, our whole being. And that is what South Asia provides. It provides a model of wetland conservation that is connected to it. It recognizes that every glass of water that we drink today is the blessing of a wetland. If a wetland does not function, none of the water supply that we have today, forget the most humble salt that is there on our table, is the blessing of a functioning wetland. The fish that we have, the plants that we eat, the makhana which is touted as the most in-protein food, all of these are blessings of wetlands. South Asian cultures have recognized what they live with. And we have several participatory models. European models or models were heavy on science. We were heavy on common sense. Right? Our models are very much connected to people, and we said, okay, yes, governments will take their own time, but governments are nothing but trustees on behalf of people. We have several models wherein communities have come together to protect a wetland without looking at governments to bring monies, to bring science. Communities, a well-empowered and well-intentioned community can turn around a wetland in no time. So those are the models, inspirations that I see what South Asia brings to the globe. The model of wetland mitra, right, which is friend of a wetland, which India gave to the world within last year, is something that is being talked about. Who is a friend of wetland? We read a pledge. The moment you take a pledge, you become a friend of the wetland. Whatever you do in your activity, be it taking a shower, a shorter shower means a lesser footprint on the wetland. Lesser garbage means less of the residue going to a wetland. All of these actions makes you a friend of wetland, and this idea is being championed by nobody less than Secretary General of Ramsar Convention. She is going out to the world and saying, look, we have connected 1 million people to the wetlands, can the entire globe follow? So we have more connected models of wetland conservation, perhaps, which can turn and in principle live the whole motto of all of society approach of wetlands conservation. I think the days of expecting governments to turn biodiversity conservation around, it's a very far-fetched one. The problem is more deep, more ingrained now. Everybody will need to act, and societies will have to confront. We cannot look at the stewardship of Dr. Joshi alone or Dr. Das Gupta alone. Yes, sir, you have set the political stage, but the day-to-day fight with wetland will be fought for a common citizen. We have to be sensitive, and these are the models I think Neha is what makes me proud, what we are bringing to the table.
So then my final question to you, you're talking about a democratization really of how wetland is run. So our esteemed panel has spoken about changing some governance structures. What is your recipe for getting this done? What would you suggest as a model, as a good model to follow?
I think, Neha, the biggest model is wetlands should come to your phone. When you drive from point A to B, you know your roads, your buildings, your landmarks. It's time that this phone also tells you where your wetlands are, who the concerned officer is, what is the condition of this wetland. And the narrative will start building from there. Atlases till date have been, we have nice wetland atlases. India is one of the few countries which has mapped its wetlands, but unfortunately these are bulky documents. They're good on my shelf, but in reality this needs to be available with everyone, with rounded covers of this country, so that they know where the wetland is, whose authority, what should be done. The second thing is this discourse like this, what Mobius has done today, needs to happen more and more frequently. Every chopal, every choraha, every newspaper, op-eds, this is where the narrative will begin. And finally, wetland complex has to be simplified. It doesn't need high value science or, it needs simple actions. Simple actions, pani mat modo, ganda mat karo, encroach mat karo. 3-4 things and wetlands will take care of themselves. Right? So I think we need to turn this subject around from being something very complex and esoteric with something that is feasible, connected and possible to be done with anyone.
So wetlands of the heart then. Yeah, wetlands connected to our heart. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the distinguished panel for your time. Thank you for listening. I think we'll wrap up here. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, okay, one question. So do I give him the mic? Does he have a mic? How much time do we have for questions? Because we're running late. So only one question? Okay. Sir, can you please keep it short?
Thank you, sir. And it was really very eye-opening, very informative discussion. I come from an area called Bundelkhand in UP. And in my area, there used to be talabon ki sanskriti. There was one writer, Misra, now he's no more. He has written a book in Hindi, Aaj Bhi Khare Hain Talab. In and around Khajuraho, Mahoba, Hamirpur, area where I come from, there happen to be thousands and thousands of ponds. Now they all been encroached upon. Biggest casualty being this invention of power. जब ट्यूबवेल आया सबने सोचा कि अथाह देयर आर वाटर इनसाइड द अर्थ और हर जगह ट्यूबवेल लगा लो और पानी निकाल लो एंड remaining water bodies getting choked not because of this water hyacinth. Recently I visited my village. I found out that algal bloom, that algae bloom, blue algae, due to unmindful use of fertilizer, this all runoff goes to the nearest water body and then whole water surface is choked with the algal bloom. So why this insensitivity? So recently I was going through a book by this young writer from Chennai, book called Intertidal, very beautifully written, young writer, Ivan Aves. So what he does, he takes students to nature walk. You are talking about the big wetland. He just giving the example of one small toad tank. हमारे in बुंदेलखंड में call it चरही, जो to give feed to animal जो बनाते हैं. Suppose it is filled with water, rain water. So even in that small area, full range of life is thriving. Water skater is running, water bug is running, water tadpole is inside it, nymph is inside it, what dragonfly hovering around it, damselfly, and then kids, they get sensitive towards their environment. So my humble suggestion to Mobius Foundation is, they are doing wonderful job. Today it was just, but so we may embark on such practices, taking students, kids, small kids to these nature walks, making them sensitive in and around life, thriving everywhere in a small time. And one more suggestion to Mr. Tawar, he is doing great job. There is a grass called vetiver grass. It's a really wonder grass. If that is planted on the berm of pond and that island inside the, so it would really help in great way in carbon sequestration, in solidifying the berm, and that making the whole water body more secure.
Thank you
very
so
much.
much. Thank you. I think you've answered the question I asked Dr. Ritesh Kumar. So the way to approach the heart is also taking young people for walks and making wetlands important places for society. We have time for one more question. Yeah.
So I have two short questions. One is regarding Sundarbans. I've been there a few years ago and found that the level of the land is pretty close to the ocean level or the water level. Now we know that we've already exceeded 1.8 degrees centigrade in the heating of this earth. By the turn of the century, you take a picture and imagine that you are now in year 2100. Then the chances of ocean levels rising and Sundarbans being underwater are very high. So what is being done to make people aware of this fact that yes, another 70 years or so, yes, one generation is okay, but after that chances of your being underwater are very high. Question one. The second question is for actually not to any panelists but to Mr. Tanwar. As far as the wetlands is concerned, there is a organization, there are organizations to deal with it. But as far as pond man of India, ponds are concerned, there is no such thing. So we need a lot of ponds. We need to have not one pond man of India, but we want to have pond men and women of India. Lots of them, hundreds of them, thousands of them. The question is, what stops them to becoming pond men? What are the difficulties he has faced? What's the learning experience from him so that others can also follow and do what he has done?
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Das Gupta to answer. Can you just...
Hello. So, yes, firstly I would like to start with the fact that we have been all harping on catching them young as far as the outreach program is concerned. India is such a big country, only few guy like us who are sitting here will not make any kind of difference. We have to reach out. We need to have people like Mr. Tanvi, not only in the cities but also in the urban, semi-urban areas, even in the villages. And lots of outreach activities as what is the importance of any biodiversity, whether it's a wetland, whether it's tiger conservation. Lots of awareness generation program is required. Till you take people along with you, no conservation activities will be successful. Nowadays we hear about the joint forestry management because this has become a big model for the entire international community. Since the communities participated in conservation, that's how we see how the forest has grown, wildlife species have grown. Now it's become a menace, elephants are creating conflict with the humankind. Some places tigers are also creating conflict because the population has increased. This has all happened due to not only the government but also people like Ritesh, people like Suresh, and millions of people, the community members who are living in the vicinity of the forest. Now coming to the point that you are saying, there are many issues regarding Sundarbans. I don't know whether you are aware of the fact that one of the island, one of the sanctuary, 90% of the area of Halliday Island has gone down the water. It's immersed now. It's only about 16 square kilometer left, which is expected to go down. Why this is happening? I was mentioning that there are 4 reasons for which wetland like Sundarban is suffering. One was the most important one is the global warming. And the global warming affects, if you do, nefarious kind of activity in US, it might affect you here. Okay, so the global warming is a global issue. And secondly, the local issues, the destruction of mangroves is also very, very important. So one should start from home. Charity begins at home. So we need to have all the policies in place. We should implement the policies, the right policies in the right time and at the right place. That should be the motto. Thirdly, you should take the people along with you for conservation activities. And fourthly, you should implement all the policies which have been enunciated by the Government of India. We have got a very good wetland rules, as people were mentioning. But unfortunately, due to conflict in the states or in the local administration, we are unable to implement those properly. So those conservation rules should be in place, should be implemented properly on ground, so that the conservation of wetlands effectively happen. There are many ways, there are many persons who are actually making changes on ground. I know some guys who were actually, the tiger killers. They were the poachers. Now they have converted themselves into conservationists. And they have done remarkable job in conservation of tigers and species. We need to have more such people coming in the platform so that we can take the conservation measures to the next level. So these are the points which I feel as a policy maker when I was in the government to make a difference on ground. But until and unless you have the local communities who are living in the vicinity, as well as people like you who stay in the cities like Delhi, are fully aware about the importance of today's discussion, that is wetland, nothing will happen. So that is, I think, I would also, because people have been thanking the Mobius Foundation, such kind of discussions actually emanates a lot of points of pondering as to why we should, today's point was to conservation of wetland. And lots of issues have been spoken by the brilliant mind of Suresh and Ritesh. And I can tell you, there are government officials like me, when we used to frame policies, we were heavily dependent. India has got brilliant minds. And there was some mention of the Central Asian Flyway policy, some mention of some, I think we were doing dolphin policy. These guys were all there to help us in framing the government policies. And in fact, when we all come together in such kind of platform and also in the policy level decisions, I think we can make a dent and we can make a difference. Sundarban needs such kind of interventions. People are there, but they have all got to be put into a concerted way of action so that eventually Sundarban gains and the people gains at large. Thank you.
So we are pondering on ponds then. Okay, the other question from Mr. Tanwar can be taken later because he's not on the panel. I think we'll conclude the panel discussion now. Thank you so much for joining us. Jessica, will you take the stage now?
Thank you. Thank you for such an insightful discussion. I'd like to thank each one of you for your time, and please do join us for dinner. But before you step down, I'd like to invite the chairman of Mobius Foundation and the president of Mobius Foundation, and they'd like to felicitate you. So, Vijita, can we please?
Second question.
No guesses as to what's depicted on the plate. also like to invite Dr. Sunish Bakshi and Ramveer Tanwarji to please come on stage. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd now like to request the president of the organization, Mr. Praveen Garg, to please share the closing remarks.
Improvement in their health. India's wetlands have faced the onslaught of increasing population and urbanization. Why I'm calling the wetlands as green gold mines? Because these wetlands provide a plethora of ecosystem services which many speakers were talking about, at times which are invisible, intangible, like purifying water, controlling floods, providing livelihoods to the local communities and so on. A study from Madras Institute of Development Studies on economic valuation of wetland ecosystem services stated that wetland goods and services contributed US dollars 14.9 trillion per year, which is equivalent to 45% of the total value of then global ecosystem services. This implies that largest contribution to total global ecosystem values comes from the wetlands. Therefore, I would like to refer to them as silent contributors to the nation's economy. I would also like to emphasize the involvement and the role of the neighboring communities, which are near the wetlands, in conserving these wetlands, as are highly dependent on the well-being of these wetlands. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, of course I was also there, so I have all these forest friends, not from the district days, but from the ministry. They came up with the idea of health card for each wetland, aiming to monitor these wetlands, especially Ramsar sites, periodically on 9 parameters, then scientifically manage them. So to make an integrated wetland plan for that. Of course, wetland conservation will require financing where the citizens can be made integral part of it. Little bit about Mobius Foundation, and there was an interesting question why it is called Mobius Foundation. It was established in 2015 and has been working extensively to promote environmental sustainability. Our foundation has a unique name called Mobius. I hope I answer the question of Raja Babu Singh. He was Mobius Foundation. So Mobius is a name. He was a mathematician, Austrian mathematician, and he designed Mobius strip, which is a unique depiction of sustainability. When you run your finger over the surface of the strip, you will experience a fascinating phenomenon. Your finger ends up back at the starting point, having covered both sides of strip without ever lifting a finger. And its simplicity depicts the essence of sustainability. And if you see our logo, it also has that strip. So that's a Mobius strip. So it denotes sustainability, circularity, and environmental issues also. We have two major objectives. One is education. Second is population stabilization. In the field of education, we have a school named Gyan Anant Vidyalaya located in the rural area of Bapur, near village Atroli. This school aims to instill education in rural areas by raising awareness about environmental issues. And we are contributing heavily towards the sustainable education in the rural areas. We are also adopting 50 government schools exclusively for girls, students in both Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh each. We have a partner also. Lotus Petal Foundation is our partner for that project. In the population stabilization program called AKAR means to keep it within the limits, within the shape. We are taking up high TFR districts of Uttar Pradesh so far, but may expand to other states and districts with high TFR rates. We are majorly partnering with Population Foundation of India. We started a think tank only in June last year, which has been conducting a series of events, including this one, highlighting environmental and sustainability issues. The first event was on 50th year of Project Tiger, and the think tank suggested a concept of Tiger Bond to enhance the financing of tiger reserves. The second event focused on dolphins to increase awareness about the importance as indicators of health of aquatic bodies. Uttar Pradesh has declared Gangetic dolphin as a state aquatic animal. And of course, we'll have more such events in times to come to take forward the cause of environmental sustainability and climate change. The think tank at Mobius Foundation is presently working on a very interesting and a project which we want to take it to the students, mainly to the students and to the common man, to the citizens of this country, on planetary boundaries, which are critical threshold of various earth systems. They represent the limits within which humanity can safely operate to avoid catastrophic environmental degradation. There are 9 planetary boundaries, and unfortunately, we as Homo sapiens have already breached 6 of these boundaries. The scientific studies suggest that we may face the 6th mass extinction. Scientific studies also indicate that the current rate of extinction is up to 10,000 times higher than the natural rate. Then up to 1 million species could go extinct in the next few decades. So the survival of the humanity on this planet will also be at stake. We need to act now. That's the message. We need to act now to conserve and preserve ecological balance and biodiversity on planet Earth. Lastly, but not the least, I would like to thank everyone who is present here for making this event meaningful and successful. Thank you so much.
Thank students. We have students today here from Miranda House and Kirorimal College. So thank you so much for taking time out. As sir, you mentioned catching them young, so here they are. So thank you all for your time, and I hope you've really enjoyed the discussion and it was informative in many ways. Please join us for drinks and dinner. And thank you once again. And I'd also like to thank the Travancore House community for, letting the premises out to us. Thank you.
Very well. Of course I do. Except when soft rains fall and drip from leaves, then I recall the thrill of being sheltered in your arms. Of course I do.